Welcome. I want to talk about why stress is ruining your weight loss and your health goals. We all probably know that stress runs our life, and if it does for you, it will run your weight loss as well. Your short term health and your longevity is all at stake. And stress plays a huge factor in today's modern world. And for those women who are wanting to shift a few extra pounds, if that's you, or if you're even just cautious of your health, maybe you have some family members who have passed away or have been diagnosed with diabetes, heart disease, cancers. If you know that health is important to you, it's really important that we take a look at how stress is influencing our day-to-day actions so we can work with our life rather than letting our lives run our body and run our health and run our weight loss. So today I really want to share with you how you're going to work with and deal with stresses in your life so that you can lose weight in a way that feels good, in a way that doesn't feel like you're having to put everyone else on the back burner, and in a way that is also nourishing and tasty for the stomach and for the body. Now, some of you women are walking around shouting from the rooftops, like, I'm stressed, I'm stressed. You know exactly how stress is ruling your life. While some of you are experiencing some chronic low-lying stress and maybe don't even know that it's actually secretly driving and influencing everything that you say and do. So some immediate symptoms of stress can be things like lack of good quality sleep, migraines, gut issues, skin issues like psoriasis, brain fog, things like these. Now, long-term symptoms of stress can be cardiovascular disease, anxiety and depression, a weakened immune system, metabolic issues and disease. So let's kind of look at the two types of people. We've got those who are overtly experiencing stress and those who are really just have no idea that they're experiencing it, right? So if you're overtly experiencing stress, you will feel stressed. It feels like you've got a lack of time, maybe too many responsibilities. And you'll know that you're stressed while searching the cupboards or feeling desperate to get home and open a bottle of wine. Maybe you keep eating even though that you're full. Maybe even grabbing dessert and deciding that tomorrow's a new day. These are the very obvious signs that you're stressed, and you probably wouldn't question it. However, some people don't even realize that they're chronically stressed, and either way, you're still creating illness, disease, short-term and long-term. So covert stress might sound like, I'm just busy. I prioritize others before myself, right? Maybe you don't give yourself any downtime or me time. And you're more likely to use the excuses that make your unaligned actions or inactions, so unaligned to your goals, sound really reasonable, like, oh, I just got busy, or, oh, I couldn't have planned for that to happen, or even I get too cocky when things go well. Things like this, right? They sound like excuses, they sound real. It sounds like a real reason to not follow through on your goals. But 2 days ago or last week, you were so dedicated to those goals, right? So either way, you will probably blame yourself, you will blame other people, you'll blame time, but you might also think, I just need to be more consistent. I just need more willpower. I'll get back on track when things calm down a bit. I hear this all the time. And things are not going to calm down, right? Things are always going to ebb and flow, but you're probably always going to have kids. You're probably always going to have a job. You're probably always going to have a mental load of maybe even keeping an entire household running, maybe in your head, or you're the CEO of a company, right? Maybe even you're a carer. So while you're trying to remember to do all of the things for those people, you've also then got to think about meal prepping for yourself, drinking enough water every day, managing your own stresses, managing your own bills. So life will always hand you stressful days. And if you keep letting stress dictate your behaviors, your choices, your thoughts, your actions, you will keep staying stuck in this same loop, repeating those start again Monday loops. Keep blaming other people, keep blaming the time, the weather for your actions or your inactions, right? So let's give you a little bit of a backstory, because the nervous system is one of the core pillars. And I've just actually released today, as we speak, a huge module inside my Her Rain program. And this is all about the nervous system and emotional regulation. So perfect timing to share some nuggets of wisdom from that module with you guys. Because the nervous system is one of the core pillars that we talk about. I talk this through with my clients because, as you'll see today, it plays a huge part in driving your actions and decisions every single day. And we don't even realize it, right? Yet all other diet programs that you'll try, that you'll go on, will actually fail to address one of the biggest underlying drivers. So your nervous system is split into two. You've got your central and your peripheral. And in your peripheral nervous system, you essentially have this entire system that is dictating the way that you feel physically, emotionally, mentally. So essentially, your nervous system is designed to be that. I want to know, okay, imagine this, right? Imagine you are throwing a dog's toy. You've got a tennis ball or a bone, and you're about to throw it. You're about to throw it. And the dog is your nervous system. So it looks at you and it looks away and it goes, are we ready yet? Do we need to run? Do I need to run? Right? And your thoughts, what you think about the world, that is you throwing the bone. So if you throw the bone, you're basically saying, yes, that is a threat, or no, it's not a threat. And as soon as you throw it, your nervous system is going to run after that bone, thinking that it is a threat, right? This is the way that I like to look at it, because I like to look at it as that responsive. So your nervous system will always be searching the environment, searching your life, listening, hearing, seeing things for threat, for that bone to be thrown. But your thoughts are the things that tell your nervous system, yes, this is a threat. So your nervous system will be like, oh, what's that? Do we need to panic? Do we need to panic? And then your thoughts about that thing will determine whether it says, yes, you need to panic, or no, it's okay. Okay. Now, sometimes this happens, or quite a lot of the time, this happens so automatically. So, so much so without you even realizing that it's happening. And before you know it, your nervous system is in that fight or flight. You're in a stress response, and then your body is activating from that side, from that state. Now, because this happens automatically, sometimes we don't even know that we're walking around in this stressed out state. We have no idea. We have no idea that that whole throwing the bone system actually happened yesterday in the morning. And the dog hasn't come back with it yet to say, hey, is it safe yet? So other diet programs, they will give you a plan of what to eat. They'll tell you what to eat. Maybe they even give you a window. They'll tell you when you can eat, maybe how many calories or macros, but they don't teach you how to go in a safe way from like 0 to 10 on a frustration level or an anger level. Maybe when you've woken up on the wrong side of the bed, then you're late because you blew out a tire, your boss yells at you, you forget your lunch. When you come home, you stand on cat vomit. You come home to stand on the cat vomit on the way to the door, and the door falls off the hinges, right? You know those days where just nothing goes right. Your plan, your sins, your macros, your points, they are all going to fly out the window on those days, because nobody teaches you, no other weight loss program will teach you the real deal about weight loss, which is how you are reacting to life, right? Because you could be late for work and that's you throwing the bone to your nervous system. Your nervous system goes, threat, oh my God, and it goes off, right? And when you are in that fight or flight mode, once you've thrown the bone and your nervous system goes, okay, I'm going, let's run. As I'll teach you in the rest of this lesson today, the rest of this episode, you will understand that once that is activated, decisions, choices become much more streamlined, and typically they become streamlined in the complete opposite direction of where you want to go with your goals, right? So the thing is that is all very much automatic until you start paying attention, until you start really picking it apart and working on it intentionally, which is what my clients are doing this month in the nervous system emotional regulation module. And that's what we're doing today, right? No weight loss program is going to teach you how to act and how to shift that in the moment. So when it comes down to a stressful day, a busy day, and all of these stresses have loaded up back to back, back to back, back to back, and you haven't intentionally dealt with it properly in a way that's not just sweeping it under the rug for you to step on later, in a way that actually gets rid of it properly, weight loss programs aren't teaching you that. So then by the end of the day, you've run out of willpower. You've run out of discipline. You are exhausted. You're frustrated. You are at your wit's end because you haven't actually properly kind of closed the book throughout the day on these things that have come up. So your only last resort is food or alcohol or drugs. So this is what we're going to talk about today, right? And that's why we're going to talk about why stress physically blocks fat loss, right? You might have stopped noticing that you're stressed and you might be reaching for food when you're overwhelmed. And I want to share with you, like I said, that's not a willpower problem. It's probably just what stress is presenting as, right? It's just presenting as that. Now, just before we dive in, I am running my free 5-day challenge, the Plant Powered Reset. We're actually running it as I speak today, right now. We're running it next week. I haven't run one in quite a few weeks, and it's to help women reclaim your health, to lose weight, reverse disease, and feel incredible for life. Because each day we will take a deep dive into the key areas of where diets are failing women, so you can fully understand what's been holding you back, to empower you to take real action that creates real long-lasting results, right? Now, while participants of previous challenges of mine have lost between like 5 to 10 pounds during challenge week alone, I must press that it is not a quick fix diet, right? I don't teach women how to lose 10 pounds in 2 days. I teach women how to have a health-focused approach so they aren't part of the 96% of women who lose weight and regain their weight and more within 5 years, right? I want to show you how to be part of that 4% of women who actually keep it off because they are focusing on their health. And weight loss isn't just about food, right? Yes, we talk about food one of those days, but it's about how you intersect with life around you. It's how life influences you, as we're talking about today, and today is just dipping our toe into the realm of how your environment and your life shapes your behavior. So if you're tired of toxic diet culture, counting, tracking, you're fed up of restarting every month or every Monday, if you're sick and tired of feeling angry, frustrated, like it's your freaking problem, like you're broken, then this is the challenge for you, right? I promise you're in the right space. So you can visit my website, which is www.overhaulhw.co.uk/challenge, or visit the show notes, or around this video, I will link the registration page. It's 5 days. That's 5 hours of intensive coaching. You literally have nothing to lose and you have everything to gain. Okay, so let's talk about cortisol. We all know about it, and some of us might have heard of things like cortisol phase, but what actually is it and why is it important to know about it? So I want you to know about it so you can de-escalate all of the bullshit and all of the drama that you have learned and been taught on the internet, okay? We are in an over-influenced era. We are over-influenced and undereducated, right? So anyone who's trying to sell you a cortisol protocol, who is trying to sell you a cortisol program, is most likely just a weight loss program, okay? But cortisol is a real thing, right? It is your primary stress hormone, and it's actually a good thing. We need cortisol. It is essential, right? When you need to get up in the morning, cortisol is going to get you moving. When you need to react fast, cortisol is going to sharpen your focus. It's basically your body's built-in performance drug, right? The problem is that your body can't tell the difference between a lion chasing you and a full inbox. Your phone's pinging with all these notifications. Your mother-in-law calls. You have to have a confronting conversation with your teenage kid. Maybe you have all day back-to-back meetings without a freaking break. So to your nervous system, you're about to die, right? It's like, it's either nothing or death. Your nervous system is practically like the entire image of all or nothing. It's either all or it's nothing. You're about to die and your body is signaling threat. That's when you've thrown the bone for the dog, right? And that's survival mode. Or you're just kind of chilling. So stress is supposed to ebb and flow. We are supposed to experience stress, or the sympathetic state as it's known. So we have two states as part of our autonomic nervous system. We have the parasympathetic state and the sympathetic state. You might have heard of these before. It's very common. So when we are in the stressed state, the sympathetic state, this is when our cortisol elevates, our heart rate increases, our digestion is shut off. So this is a place where we struggle to assimilate nutrients and vitamins and minerals, and we struggle to digest our food properly. Blood flow is reduced taken away from digestion and put into our limbs for quick moving. It's moved up to the brain to think quick, basically to get you out of that, to get you out of the life-threatening experience that you're living in right now, right? Even if that's just traffic. So we are supposed to go in and out for life-saving reasons, but we're also supposed to go back to the parasympathetic state, back to the relaxed state. But the problem is some of us don't. Most of us don't go back there, right? And when we're stuck in this stressed state, cortisol is going to stay elevated. Our bodies aren't supposed to be constantly secreting cortisol. That's not where we're supposed to be. We're supposed to regulate, go back to baseline, and not be releasing cortisol 24/7, right? And that is going to make weight loss harder. Not impossible, harder. So chronic stress, and therefore chronic cortisol elevation, is going to actually influence fat storage, specifically around the abdomen, which is the visceral fat. And research does show that women with higher cortisol reactivity will consistently store more abdominal fat. You might notice that you might have a bigger abdomen, but quite slim arms or legs, right? Maybe you're someone who just stores fat everywhere, not particularly around the abdomen. Either way, the stress is going to influence where and how your body stores fat, right? And look, we know with war-torn countries, for example, that stress doesn't make you fat, right? Otherwise, deprived and starved people in these war-torn countries wouldn't be dying from starvation and malnourishment, right? They'd be dying of obesity or cortisol, increased cortisol, right? Death by cortisol. We know that stress isn't the causation of being overweight. It just encourages unhealthy behavior. And in today's society, and in the way that we choose to cope with stress, that is the stress and the cortisol is essentially the catalyst for the unhealthy and unhelpful behaviors in the way that we deal with stress, right? So you combine modern society with too easy access of high calorie foods, extremely high calorie foods. Also, the need to move less, right? We're not moving around trying to find shelter. We're not running around trying to hunt and gather, right? We are stationary, we're stressed, we're not moving, and we're consuming these ultra-processed high-calorie foods. So the choices that we make when we're stressed, because of this era, this modern era that we live in, that is what is actually creating the increase in weight, not the fact that you're stressed. And we can just see this from, prisoners of war. We can see this from war-torn countries. I'm not very political, so I don't really know the right way to say it, but you get the idea, right? Stress is going to disrupt leptin and ghrelin. And leptin and ghrelin are the hormones that are responsible for telling you that you've eaten enough food and to tell you to eat. So leptin will tell you that you've eaten enough food, and that gets triggered when your belly expands. And ghrelin, the hormone that tells you that you're hungry, that it's time to eat, both of these are going to be impacted when cortisol is chronically high, because we start ignoring our hunger signals. We start fueling our body with, or filling our body, with food, because we're using food as a coping mechanism. We're not moving our body. So we're staying stagnant and we're ignoring our hunger hormones. This makes them then unreliable, less reactive. And now we can't trust them, right? So sometimes you'll eat a full meal, you'll still feel like something's missing. That's the stress. You're trying to numb your feelings. And so you'll go back for dessert, even though you're full after dinner. So cortisol is also going to tell your liver to dump glucose into your bloodstream as emergency fuel, which then triggers an insulin response, which is promoting fat storage. So when you're repeating this daily, yearly, you now have metabolic disease. So it really is important for us to genuinely think about cortisol as not the problem. It is a symptom of the problem. The problem is the stress, the way that we handle stress. You can't change a lot of the stresses in your life, right? You can't change the life. You can't go around determining exactly what people are going to say to you and what's going to happen, but you can deal with the way that you absorb that information and what you do with it. So stress is making weight loss hard, but how can you tell? Now, I've asked clients, what's your stress levels? And they might say, oh, nothing major. And then in the same conversation, she'll tell me that her mum's health has declined. She's having to take care of her. She's having to manage her kids' schedules, her own workload simultaneously. She hasn't slept a full night's sleep in 3 years. She's maybe got low-level anxiety. She eats standing up in the kitchen at the counter. She can't remember last time she sat down and felt genuinely calm, right? The problem is we've normalized this incredibly unhealthy way to live, right? We consume more than our ancestors did in an informational way as well, right? Because in a millisecond, we can consume more information than we ever used to, right? It used to take weeks to send and receive a letter from someone. Now it takes 3 seconds in a 2-hour doom scroll to consume just as much information as it did that one letter exchange. So don't forget that we have the same programming as our ancestors. We have the same programming as cave women, but we are consuming, I don't know what the statistic is. I'm just going to go out on a whim here. We're probably consuming 1 billion times more information than they ever did in their lifetime, in our lifetimes. And that's because we have billboards and advertisements and TVs and radios and phones, social media, phones. They are going to be the death of me. So we are overloaded with responsibilities, with information, with work. Your nervous system is still operating on that cavewoman programming. So you're trying to update the latest app on basically that block of stone that cavewomen had, right? So experiencing chronic, mild to moderate stress consistently for so long will have you stop registering your life as even stressful. And that then becomes your expected life, your baseline. Why do you think so many people are trying to check out and run for the mountains? One of my clients said to me recently, I just want to run away to the mountains and be by myself. And I don't blame her. I don't blame her, because the way that we live right now is an information overload, and we are struggling if we don't pay attention to it. And the way that we cope is with food, with alcohol, and with drugs. And that is not setting us up for a healthy, long life. So this kind of overload of information, researchers actually call allostatic load. And that's the concept is that your body has this stress response system designed for short bursts, right? We're supposed to go in and out of the stress short bursts, but modern life has just turned it into this chronic, like low level drip. So over time, your nervous system is adapting, not by healing, but just by deciding that this is your new baseline, right? Which means that we're not overreacting to stress. We're actually underreacting because our system is chronically exhausted. And when your body lives in this state, whether you're knowing that you're stressed or not knowing that you're stressed, it is not going to be in the most optimal fat burning mode. So, hey, you can give yourself fewer calories and you will lose weight. And again, we see this in prisoners and war-torn countries and the adverts for the TV charities, right? We get that. But none of them can lose weight because of menopause or because they're stressed. They lose weight because they can't eat enough calories. So please don't take this as a green pass to go and starve yourself, right? Take this as an empowerment for you to be able to actually take charge of your life, not sit in the passenger seat with your hands up saying, well, there's nothing I can do. My body was just made to be unhealthy, right? And look, I talk about stress as being a contributor to not the deciding factor because of one very big point, right? And I often hear, I'm really good during the day and then I just lose it in the evenings. Or I was doing so well and then we had a stressful week and I just ate everything. I know what I should be doing. I just can't stop myself, right? And the problem with this is women attach so much shame to this because women, you're smart. You have other parts of your lives completely together, right? I speak to women who are CEOs, mothers, carers, therapists, health coaches. They can have every duck in a row, but somehow just struggle with their own weight and own health, right? And it's not always about the food. It's about the things, right? It's not always about the food and it's not always about discipline because nobody's robbing an ice cream parlor of their ice cream, right? Nobody's robbing a chocolate factory of all their chocolate. Nobody is uncontrollable around food. It's because you're not managing your stress. You're not settling your nervous system when shit hits the fan or just regularly to reduce that baseline. So when stress hits and cortisol spikes, your brain will get flooded with this signal to seek fast energy, specifically high calorie dense food that triggers the reward system in your brain. Because in a survival scenario, that's rational. That makes sense, right? You need fuel fast, and that's going to be carbohydrate, fat, sugar, dense foods. And that comes from junk foods. Your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain known for rationalization, that also goes offline during high stress moments, right? Brene Brown talks about how we are neurologically wired to reach for numbing behaviors under chronic emotional stress. So you're basically wired to say, screw my goals. This drive-through is exactly what I need on my way home because I don't want to cook, right? But that's like letting the kid have a tantrum, make the choices. They want a resolution now, and the only way they know how is with something that's actually destructive. And only because we trained it that way, right? So on top of this, and this is the bit that I find really, really fascinating, is dopamine-seeking behavior increases under stress. When we're stressed, the only thing that we want to feel is good, right? And we know that things that give us dopamine feel good. So not only is your body demanding fast fuel, it's not thinking about your goals, it's looking for fast energy. It's also looking and seeking to feel good. And all of the shortcuts for all of those things are junk food because we know that it's socially acceptable, it's easy, it's at every corner, and it works, right? There's no beating around the bush. It freaking works for a moment. The full story needs to be padded out there. It works for the moment, it doesn't work long term. But your emergency survival mode is only thinking about your emergency survival. It's not thinking about future you and goals and your aspirations and where you'd like to be. It's just seeking to get you out of death, right? So foods, especially sweet, salty, high fat, they are the fastest dopamine hits available. And this is why I coach the nervous system alongside nutrition and other things, because you can know everything there is to know about whole food, plant-based eating, right? And you can reach for the biscuits at 9 p.m. when you're exhausted and your brain has gone into threat mode, right? Knowledge doesn't override a dysregulated nervous system. That's just the truth. So how are we going to tackle stress when stress is always going to be around us? First and foremost, no, the answer isn't necessarily to swap one food for the other, right? Now, yes, that might help with your calorie load. You might reduce the calories overall if you swap an unhealthy food for a healthier food, right? Meaning you still could lose weight. But regardless, if you swap a Snickers bar for a sweet potato or some broccoli, you could, one, still be overeating, but two, and this is the point that I'm trying to make throughout this entire training, you're still eating in response to stress, right? Meaning if those whole foods aren't around and you're stressed out, your brain will put anything else in your freaking mouth instead or before it starts to deal with stress in an effective way. So you can get rid of the foods, but if you don't deal with your stress and your nervous system and learn how to work with those essentially properly, then food will always be the solution, right? And we don't want food to be the solution because we want to have a healthy relationship with food, and a healthy relationship with food is using food as fuel, not as a tool, okay? So that's the habit that we want to break. So let me be clear. Yes, swapping chocolate and ice cream and chips for carrot sticks and cucumbers is absolutely one hell of an upgrade. And look, I would recommend you even start there. That's fine, but it's not the fix of your nervous system. And what I do is help my clients fix their problems at the root. Okay. So in this example, the problem isn't that you eat chocolate in the evenings, right? The problem is that you don't alleviate stress. You don't give yourself breaks throughout the day. You don't allow yourself to feel any joy or excitement or peace or calm or alleviate yourself of the expectations or responsibilities until everyone's gone to bed and now you can have some me time, right? But you call me time shoving junk food down your neck like it's a freaking treat. You know what's a treat? Waking up feeling freaking amazing. Waking up feeling energized. Waking up without regret, without shame, without judgment, because you gave yourself what you actually needed instead of overeating, right? Not overeat still, regardless of whatever foods that you choose. Waking up with pride and satisfaction and joy, that is the treat. Okay, so stress doesn't make you necessarily gain weight. Excess calories make you gain weight. Stress influences what happens with the food you eat. It influences your choices. It drives cravings. It influences your sleep. What you put in your mouth is still the biggest, number one influencer of if you're going to gain weight or not. Okay, there is absolutely no doubt about it. Calories in versus calories out, but there is a lot of nuance behind that. There is a lot that changes the calories in versus calories out. That's why calorie counting isn't a sustainable method. It isn't always about that. Some people will struggle with calories in versus calories out if you're constantly stressed, because the only thing that you're going to feel satisfied with is higher calorie foods, right? So yes, while calories in, calories out technically works, it doesn't practically work, right? We can't logically work our way through that if your entire coping mechanism and system is reliant on you using food to cope with the thoughts that you have about yourself, about your life, about your situation, right? So if we're allowing stress to run free in the background or even in full sight and plain sight, it's going to make it harder to reach your goals. Now, I can't fire your boss for you. I can't adopt your kids for you. I can't babysit your pets while you go away on an all-paid inclusive holiday. I wish I could do that for all of you. But what I can do is give you some of my top tips to help you in the moment stress hits. I can't help you rewire your entire nervous system. That took me 3 weeks of planning, recording, and uploading into my program. So if you do want to do it fully, properly, intentionally, and change your life long term, then let's have a chit chat and see if my program is the right fit for you. Otherwise, I'm going to give you a couple of my top tips, 3 of my top tips to help you in the moment, right? These aren't going to be the be all and end all. This isn't going to change your life. This isn't going to change what you think about your boss. This isn't going to change how you cope with stress on a day-to-day basis, but it is going to give you some fundamental tools to work with, okay? So tip number 1 is to always regulate before you eat. This sounds so stupidly simple. It is not common practice, however. So before you sit down for a meal, particularly dinner, right? Because let's face it, most of us, I would say probably be in that about 90% of women can go fine all day. But then as soon as either 3 p.m. hits or 6 p.m. hits, that's it. We struggle, right? We have our meal and then it's snacks, right? Even I am absolutely fine up until like 2, 3 p.m. And that's when my brain starts going, let's go for the junk food. Let's go for this, right? So most of us will struggle from the evening time. And when you sit down in the evening, cortisol is often quite elevated still from a full day's worth of work, from carrying a whole load and responsibilities and deadlines and stuff like that. So I want you to take 60 seconds to 120 seconds. So 1 to 2 minutes, right? Specifically focusing on your breath before you eat. Why do we do this? Breathing either activates or deactivates the sympathetic or the parasympathetic nervous system. So essentially, the way you breathe makes you stressed or relaxed, okay? So you will be breathing according to your stressed or relaxed state, but then it's the only thing that you can intentionally change. You can then go in and change that, right? So it's either copying you or you can go in and manually change it. So before you sit down and eat, I want you to manually change your breath. You are manually activating the state of your nervous system that is designed to utilize the food the best, right? So we want to intentionally activate the parasympathetic state as we sit down and eat, because if you do that, you are not in a stressed fight or flight state. You're able to utilize and leverage all of that food in the best way possible. You're able to be more mindful with your food, and therefore you actually eat a little bit less. You can be more in tune with it, which means it's more enjoyable, right? You can feel full quicker because you're not eating as fast. There are so many benefits for intentionally activating the parasympathetic nervous system before you eat. So one of the most powerful things that you can do is intentionally breathe like you are relaxed for 2 minutes before you eat, okay? And that just looks like a longer exhale than an inhale. I couldn't give a flying dog's monkey. That's a new saying. I couldn't give a flying dog's monkey's ass, is what I wanted to say. I couldn't care less what you're counting at. Just count for a longer exhale than your inhale, okay? I use 5-5-7 with my clients. You can use whatever you want. 5 seconds in, 5 seconds pause, 7 seconds out. It's that simple. Tip number 2 is to stop treating your sleep as it's optional. My non-negotiable is 8 hours sleep. Because when we are sleep deprived, we typically can consume 300 to 500 calories more the next day without even realizing it. When you are sleep deprived, you are increasing your stress response, right? Everyone knows that we need to sleep, but poor sleep, poor quality sleep, so we're talking about the quality and quantity of your sleep, is going to increase cortisol the next day. So make sure that you have a non-negotiable for your sleep. make sure that you are getting 7 to 10 hours of sleep. Absolutely non-negotiable every single day. If that is impossible for you, you are a new mom. Congratulations, whether you have a baby, human being, or a puppy or a kitten that makes it impossible for you to sleep all the way through, or whatever it is. If it is not in your control at the moment, know that there is probably going to be a time when it is back in your control. But do what you can, right? Increase that sleep where you can. It is very important because we are going to consume more calories the next day. We are going to be more stressed the next day. It is not going to help with your overall health and your weight goals. And tip number 3 is just decide the next 24 hours. A lot of people get really stuck in trying to plan their entire week. And, oh, what happens if I do this? And what happens if I do that? Having like a general idea of what you're going to have throughout the week is very important. I always do a meal plan. Me and my partner, we always do a meal plan for the following week. But I just focus on the next 24 hours. I don't think about what I'm going to have tomorrow. I know kind of what the principles of what I'm going to have are, but I just focus on the next 24 hours. What am I going to eat for the next 24 hours? And just focus every single time on, am I hungry? Am I not hungry? Like, when am I going to eat? Just the 24 hours. Having a 24-hour focus rule is really, really helpful to reduce the stress and to stop thinking about the future and stop thinking, well, if I fail or if I don't do this, right? In that 24 hours, if you have a chocolate bar, just ask yourself, what can I do next to help with my health, right? Don't starve yourself. Don't deprive yourself, because that creates more punishment reward cycles, which is where we often get stuck. But think about that 24 hours. If that 24 hours finishes on a massive binge, start the next 24 hours, right? It's okay. When you take 24-hour time block, things become far easier, right? All you've got to do is focus on what you can do in 24 hours to help lose weight. Stop thinking about the 50 pounds, the 100 pounds, the 10 pounds that you want to lose, and just focus on 24 hours, because that streamlined focus is going to help you immensely, right? Now, everything that we've talked about today is a perfect reflection of the kind of things that we talk about in the Plant-Powered Reset, right? That's my free 5-day challenge to help women like you quit dieting and start thriving so you can lose weight, reverse disease, improve the quality and longevity of your life for life. And people always ask me, like, do I get a meal plan? The answer is no, you don't, because I'm showing you how weight loss programs have failed you before. Nobody needs another meal plan. You've got meal plans coming out your fucking ear holes. We talk about nutrition on one day, yes, but we also talk about all the other ways that diet programs have failed you in the past. You have enough meal plans, ebooks, recipe books, stuff from me, bookmark tabs, Instagram reels. There's billions of plant-based recipes you probably already have on your shelves, on your computer, or on your phone, but you don't have this. You don't have all the missing pieces of the weight loss puzzle. So whether you've spent years trying to get back on track, or you're just waiting to shift a few pounds, and you know that something's missing, you know that something keeps pulling you back, keeps pulling you off, you keep self-sabotaging, you keep messing up, you feel frustrated, you feel like it's a you problem, then the Plant-Powered Reset will help you. It will help you figure out what's missing, what the missing piece is. So the link to join will be around the show notes or description of this episode. Alternatively, you can DM me the word challenge on Instagram or Facebook, and I will send you the details. We'll get you set up. Make sure you join our free community, by the way. This is the Women's Plant-Based Weight Loss Support Group. This is where I post free trainings, resources, yes, some recipes and meal prep ideas, and general support to help you along your plant-based weight loss journey. I look forward to seeing you in the next Plant-Powered Reset Challenge. Don't forget to sign up now. Currently, as I'm speaking, the next one is next week, June the 8th to the 12th. So get your asses moving and get registered, and I'll see you in there. If not, I'll see you in the Women's Plant-Based Weight Loss Club. Take care, and I'll catch you soon. Bye.